Now broadcasting. Okay. Let's just hide that moment. Okay. Hear that there, hear that there, hear that there. We got two people. Okay, we've got Russ, we've got Matt. Of course, we got me and we got me. There's two me's. I'm actually trying a different way of doing things. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm going to wait until. Okay, cool. Question is, Russ, where do you hear me from? Do you hear me from the YouTube live feed or do you hear me from the talk show feed? That's the question. I know you got both going. Well, I see that according to my phone, I'm actually it's showing that. Okay, want me to do this then? That's okay. Well, good here, and let me just do one quick thing. Which is okay. Podcast. Okay, that's good. Okay, it's still a podcast. That's fine. So, testing. Okay, good. Okay, cool. Then we'll continue on. One way or another. Oh, paused. Okay. Paused. Ah, crap. Okay. Dang it. Let's try this. Let's stop that. Okay, let's try this. Okay. Give me a sec here. And there's one possibility I'm hoping. Because the tough part is that currently TalkShoe is automatically picking up on my cell phone's phone number. So what I'm going to see if I can do is I can turn that off. And one thing is... no. What is... I think it's probably phone. Phone. Yeah, there it is. Call blocking caller ID. Okay, it's call blocking. Call show caller ID. No. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay. Let's try this one more time. Please.
Welcome to TalkShoe. Please enter the show ID followed by the pound key. You can access the episode up to 15 minutes before the scheduled start time. That show ID is not valid. Welcome to TalkShoe. Please enter the show ID. You are joining the online studio. Your line is muted. Only the host can unmute your line. Raise your hand using *2 so the host knows when you want to speak.
Crap, it still knows I'm here. Okay, let's end that. I might have to back out one more time. Let's see. Okay, I'm not gonna be able to do that. Okay, fine. We're gonna to adjust things a bit. Okay. Hit you, hit you, hit you. Okay, so I'm going to do is that's going to be fine there. I just need to change. Okay, gotta get this right. Okay. Well, actually, this wouldn't be Chrome, wouldn't it? Because I'm not recording anything that's coming from Chrome. Okay, great. I got this wrong. So, anyhow, let's do this. Okay. 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 I assume you can hear me now through TalkShoe. Thanks, Russ. Okay. Give me one of those. Got that. So why am I hearing that go? Okay, I'm. I do it wrong. Through Skype, shouldn't be getting anything back. Echo. Right. Okay, hold on. Give me a sec here. Okay, guys. Apologize for taking so long to get this thing going. New setup and all on this one. Okay, that'd be right here, right? That's 741. Okay, 941. So, I want. Okay. Okay. That looks good. Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. Okay, cool. Okay, got that part. Cool. Okay, I'm just going to minimize that. Let me just look at this other thing real fast to see if I can figure out what. Let's see, what did I do wrong? Because the headphones is coming. Because I'm kill right, so this would be left. I shouldn't be hearing anything from here. Oh, okay. So where am I hearing my own voice? That's the question. What am I hearing? Don't know. Because is that being broadcast from the YouTube? It can't be from the YouTube channel. Because I'm not listening to the YouTube channel. No, it's just weird. Okay. Bum. Here's my. Make sure that's not happening. Actually, what I see if I could do is kill that. I'm not okay. I'm not worried about that at the moment. Okay, so let's do this. No, definitely not do that. Okay, so let's just go and I'll deal with it. Okay. I don't see anything. It's not. Oh. No. Yeah. So why Skype? There's only one that could be. That's weird. Okay, let's just start. Okay. Okay. Bum. Okay. Oh, that's bad. Okay. Wait a minute. Am I recording from a different? No, that's going from there. And Skype. Let's make sure. Did they re-add that? Ooh. Don't. Okay. Okay. That should be good for the recording. Okay. I'm just gonna start. I'm hearing an echo and I'm not sure why. Yeah, because the output, what? Okay, wait a minute, let's try this. Okay. Okay, now I fixed it. Okay, let's just stop this. Now I know why I was getting reverb. Okay, had the setup wrong. Okay, we're good. Now we're going to start recording. Okay. Welcome to Starfleet Universe On Call. I am Paul Franz, owner of Franz Games. Try this again. And it's me, yes, the one, the only, the Paul Franz, welcoming you to Starfleet Universe On Call. And tonight we have me and there's Matt and Russ are sitting in the chat room I don't see Dave, and that doesn't surprise me because I don't think Dave said he would. I don't think Dave said he would be here. And for those few individuals, so this hardy few, we do have a current YouTube live stream. Of course, you don't know this unless you're actually watching the talk show live stream, which actually, at the moment, I think that's only 2 people. I have 2 viewers. I think both of those are actually the people in the talk show room. So whatever. At the moment, I'm still debating on how to do this. Let's go through that real quick, and then we'll get into Andromedans. Number one, obviously, this week I'm testing out YouTube Live. Okay, so that's for YouTube Live. We are, I'm doing a co-broadcasting. I'm not sure if I'm going to continue doing co-broadcasting, and I'm going to choose either Twitch or I'm going to choose YouTube. I haven't figured that out. I will figure that out. Now, because the big question for me is I don't mind this co-broadcasting stuff. I really don't. It seems to work well. YouTube Live seems to do exactly what I want it to do. Now, obviously, the one thing that I have not checked into for YouTube Live is about chat room. And that is, obviously has a chat room. You can do chatting there. And the big issue, obviously, is that if we use both TalkShoe and either Twitch or YouTube Live, is chat room. Which one do you go to? And I think it's kind of silly to have 2 chat rooms because Lord knows I don't want to have 2 chat rooms. And I'm sure you don't want to have 2 chat rooms because if you join us, like let's say somebody joins in the talk show and they are in that chat room. Anyone who is in that chat room, you won't see any of the chats if you log into YouTube Live. At the moment, YouTube Live is it's just for broadcasting. It's listening to my lovely voice. But I don't like that. As I'm sure that a lot of you know, and if you listen to me long enough over the past 10 years, you know the original reason I created this community, created this podcast, this live podcast, because that's important, was to have a time that people could set aside on Thursday nights. I figured that'd be 9:30 was a pretty good night. Thursdays. Most time nothing's happening on Thursday night. Most time it's Monday or Fridays. So most people are available. Number one. Number two, 9:30 is as good as I can get when it comes to. I'm on the East Coast. 9:30 is late enough that I should be able to catch those individuals on the West Coast of the United States, Pacific time, and have them join us because that'd be 6:30 their time. So it's just not too bad. It's if you have supper with the family and all, you might be missing it. But if you eat a little bit early, just for one day, so you want to join us, you can do that. Obviously, if you are joining us from there, you could join us from Australia because actually India is better because India would be around, I think that's 13. I think it's 13 and a half hour difference, which would make it I think it's whether that makes it 10 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning. One of those two, but still, it's a one. Of course, that's Friday. Just to let you know, they are ahead of us now. Europe, I'm screwed. There's only one person I can imagine who actually would possibly join us. Majid Farsi. He's the only guy that I know. He actually will work like in the middle of the night. I've seen him play at like 2 o'clock in the morning, his time. And I'm going, are you nuts? But he plays. He wants to play that badly. So he does. And I think that is great. I obviously it makes it hard for him, and I will have to agree. I feel sorry for him. That's why I think for him the best days are Saturdays or Sundays to play, to have it so that he can do it like late in the afternoon. If you can do it in the morning, he can do it in the afternoon, and you both are happy. Or you can do it in the afternoon. He can do it like in the evening, and you both are pretty much happy. It's reasonable schedules here. But anyhow, the whole idea is community. Now, if I have two different chat rooms, I don't have a community. What I have is two separate chat rooms. Now, obviously, the beautiful thing about TalkShoe is that it is our conference calls. Done. Just to let you know, the one thing I did do this week, I forget if I did it last week right after the show, or I did it like Friday night. Might have been one of those two. But I did it last week where I checked on what free conference calls is there. Now, the funny part about that whole thing is that one of them I looked up was because I have, just to let you know, a little behind the scene things. I run a little snitch because I actually like to know what my browser, mainly not the browsers, but mainly other programs, what are they connecting to? I like to know this. So, Little Snitch was telling me that, okay, when I bring up TalkShoe and it tries to connect, what is it trying to connect to? It's trying to connect to the free conference. I think it's free conference call. That's what it's .com. It's like, cool. So that's actually one of the ones I looked at. And actually, we could actually use that. I just have to get a phone number and a meeting ID, and I have to check to see how that would work. So if we would want to switch off of TalkShoe, we could actually use free conference call as the call center to have us all call in. I can actually call into the conference call using whatever I want to use. And previously, I tried something early tonight and it didn't quite work, and it's a pain in the butt. And I gotta see if TalkShoe has improved that, or if I can just disable that feature. And that is that TalkShoe automatically picks up on the caller ID of the phone. Since it picks up the caller ID of the phone, I've actually have another registered account with TalkShoe called SFU On Call Host. And that's what it picks up my cell phone as. Because I have an iPhone and I've got a Mac. So what I was doing is I was calling the iPhone from my Mac and actually recording that on my Mac. So it's really cool. It was working great. Problem is that it was coming up with SFU On Call Host, and you have to actually log in as the host to actually start the recording. Actually, to have it so it actually has any sound coming out. Because I tried it earlier and Russ said, oh, no, it doesn't work. It's like, okay, crap. So I have to go back to Skype, which I was trying to avoid. The only reason I was trying to avoid Skype is because of the whole thing it does with the microphone. It just drives me absolutely insane. Even though, actually, it looks like they brought the feature back. Is one thing it looks like they did with Skype, which is the ability to turn off the automatic gain of the microphone. Now, last time I tried that sucker, it still did it. I turned it off and it still basically ignored that setting. So it automatically would still adjust the microphone setting. So we'll just have to wait and see if the Skype will do the same thing this week. In the meantime, that's a quick update. I still haven't figured out exactly what we're gonna do. If we're gonna actually abandon TalkShoe altogether, because as I said, when it comes to the chat platform, we need a unified chat platform. Period. And from my understanding, people have problems logging into TalkShoe. Now, here's the thing that kind of bugs me, and I think it would bug you too, which is people were having problems, but they neglected to tell me. And because there's one person I saw on the SFU, sorry, SF, the Starfleet Universe discussion board. And he said, "Oh yeah, I tried a few months ago and I couldn't log in. It didn't work. Or a couple months ago, I forget the exact phrase he used, but tried to use it, it didn't work. Okay, that's fine. And the reason why you didn't tell me, because see, here's the thing. For me, if the platform is not working for people, if I am cutting off people that I could be engaging. Okay, I'll get to that in just a moment, Matt. Sorry, but yeah, that would that drove me crazy because if I'm not able to build the community because of there's a limitation in TalkShoe is giving an issue, then that is the case. Oh, okay. Now, Matt brings up a question. He said, if we drop TalkShoe, how will people listen to archive shows? Well, they still be listed. And the answer is yes. I can still upload. My understanding is I still will be able to upload episodes to TalkShoe. Obviously, Matt, I'm not sure if you have been listening long enough or listening while you're not here. But I also have an actual website called SFUoncall.com. And that also has a listing of the shows, both as it just has like a blog listing where you can actually click on the link to the podcast, or you actually can subscribe to the podcast via that link. Now, that's one thing actually I did this week again, which is checking the feed for iTunes, because I finally got into iTunes and to check my podcast, because it's been forever. I got 2 podcasts currently listed. One of them I've not actually actively been doing anything for like over 5 years, probably longer, probably more like 8 years. Because I think I started it up around the same time I started up this one. It was called Franzi's Thoughts, and that was originally designed as a short, quick, here's my thought for the day kind of thing, or maybe just thought for the week. Like grown-ups are just children with money. It's just understandable. Little goofy things like that. So, yeah. So they would still be available through TalkShoe, but also through the website. I would probably be pushing people towards the website. And actually, that's one thing I have not checked, which is checked with the podcast listing on iTunes on whether they actually can have also a website. You can reference a website on that podcast feed. The information. I'll probably check later. Probably not tonight. Probably tomorrow. If not tomorrow, it's worst case Monday, because I'm going to be pretty busy over the weekend because I'm going to Gamers of Summer. So if you're in the Harrisburg area, look up Gamers of Summer, and you will find me. It's a convention. Doug calls it a convention. One thing I really realized from that is it's more of a gaming group that meets twice a year. That's what it is. Doug, he will find us a venue. He will, set up, we'll have some fun with it. We have different contests that occur, which makes it fun. But also, he asks people to put in money, and it's an open group. All you have to do is put in your money, because he needs us to pay him so that he can get us the actual place, and he doesn't go down the tubes. And because if he's not making money, if he makes a little money, that's great. At the very least, I want him to make sure that he actually comes out even. If it doesn't at least come out even, through everything, it ain't worth his time. I'm hoping that it be always better than even. So it encourages him to continue, because I love it. I think it's unfortunately, as I'm not sure. Yeah, unfortunately, as Barry said last week, I'm pretty sure he did it on the live broadcast, which is that he will not be able to attend this time because he's just starting up a new job. So, it's one of the few times I actually get to see Barry in person, because he lives down in New York. Well, that's not gonna be for long. He's gonna be moving. Yeah, so I'll probably only be seeing him if he comes up for like Gamers of Winter, or possibly I might be able to see him in October. And I have to look at October. October seems to be like a very, very nuts month for me, because I have my retreat that I'm going to be a part of. That's number one. And then the next weekend after that is my daughter's friends and family weekend. And then, if I recall correctly, also the Council of Five Nations is also in October. It's like the first weekend in October. So if I go to that too, I'm going to have a really crazy freaking month. That every single weekend I'm going to be doing something. Either I'm going to be gone, or I'm going to be, if I do that, then my first 3 weekends, I'm going to be gone. Of course, it's kind of afford it all. That's the tough part, because if I don't have Barry, I have to pay for my own hotel room, and hotel rooms aren't exactly cheap. That's one of the reasons. Actually, the reason I stopped going to Origins was not because of that was too expensive. It's because ADB is quick going, and therefore that actually made it a little too expensive for me, because they actually helped me pay for food, because we were volunteers and we actually got credits, these things that you actually could then spend at the food court. And actually, the food court was pretty good. There's one place that I really liked. They had shrimp pad thai, and it's a Chinese food place that shrimp that made available shrimp pad thai. And I liked the shrimp pad thai. I'm not sure if it's real shrimp pad thai, but it was good. It's like the whole idea of Americanized Chinese food isn't really Chinese food. It's not real, authentic Chinese food. Yeah, that whole thing. Because I think like General Tso's chicken is not really something that they usually serve in China. They usually don't fry up things. But anyhow, moving onward, why don't we get off the subject of SFU on call, which I could probably talk about it for another hour, about some of the challenges. But we will figure this out and see what works best. See what one I like the best at the moment. To me, I kind of like YouTube Live for only one reason. I like YouTube Live because it's simpler. Because I have one browser, I have Chrome up, and that does everything. Versus if I do it via Twitch, what I have to do is I have to bring up OBS, have that connect to Twitch, and start streaming to Twitch using OBS. And the question is, again, I still haven't checked to see if you actually can view the stream without having an account. I'm pretty sure you can't actually join the chat without an account. Heck, I'm pretty sure you can't join the chat on YouTube Live without having an account. But Lord knows, a lot of people have accounts on Google, and it's kind of pointless. When it comes to moderation, it doesn't really help all that much because I'm sure you all guys, everyone who's looked at YouTube videos, not the YouTube videos, but look at the comments about the YouTube videos, you'll see some of the crap that gets put in there. The only thing that stops people from doing that usually is because the YouTube video is just so small. The audience is so small, so limiting that you don't see it. So, given that, I'm still not 100% on YouTube Live, but again, the whole thing about co-broadcasting, I still have to figure that out if I'm going to continue doing that. Probably not, because as I said, the whole problem with divided chat rooms. But I definitely, if we do a switch, I will announce it to people. Anyone who's listening, or either from the listening live or the podcast, I will be also posting it up, both in the Twitter and discussion board. I'll possibly even on Facebook, my page there for SFU Online. I'll probably post it there, for all these, and so that I can get the word out as much as possible. And then possibly changing the note on TalkShoe to say, okay, well, we're now doing it over YouTube Live or something like that, or doing it all over on Twitch now. But you still can get the podcasts here. But anyway, onward and forward. Andromedans. Big surprise. I pick Andromedans because guess what? I like Andromedans. Oh, shocker! Anyone who knows me knows I like the Andromedans. Obviously, there's so many. Oh man, there's so many topics when it comes to the Andromedans. It kind of blows your mind about it. So obviously, we can start with the simplest thing, which is, of course, no one knows actually what the Andromedans look like. The only interactions that people have ever had with the Andromedans are not with the Andromedans itself, but they are with the robots which the Andromedans send. And I don't think that. No, actually, I think there was one story. I was going to say there's no stories about capture of someone and being examined by the Andromedans. And I don't think, I'm pretty sure there was one, but if I recall correctly, the interactions that were mentioned in there again were the robots. Now, that always brings up an interesting question. Are the robots the Andromedans themselves? Or are the Andromedans another being, another living being? Also, that I've always, one of the ideas, there's a couple of ideas I've always had about the Andromedans. One, I always think that they're non-corporeal. They actually don't have bodies. So, to me, of course, if they don't have bodies, what does that mean? That means that they're 100%, in our case, I think they're electronic. There are, now here's always the question about where do they exist then? Because are they actually in the robots, or they just control the robots? The one idea I've always had about the Andromedans, and I have no way of proving this. I have nothing that actually proves this, but one of the ideas I've always had, which is that the ships themselves are the Andromedans. They exist enclosed by the actual ships themselves. The brain is in there. It's electronic brain, but it's actually in the ship itself. Now, there's no proof of this. And from my understanding of the ships that have been captured, the tech hasn't, and it's never been figured out. Now, there's nothing to say that the Andromedan itself is not a ship, not the ship. There's nothing to say that could not be the case. And then if they're captured, they just they're quiet. Or they might suicide. Fry a certain circuit and off themselves, so they cannot be discovered. Because obviously, I'm sure that you remember how the Sigvarians, they had the issue where people, originally, the Sigvarians, that people didn't realize that they're actually, when they were decontaminating themselves, they actually were killing sentient beings that were living inside the hosts. They weren't the hosts themselves. So, which was interesting. When they found out that, obviously, they freaked out. But this points out that they didn't know that the Sigvarians were actually the sentience part of them were actually these basically an intelligent virus, which was living inside the hosts, which is. So it was really that much of a foreign concept. Same thing as when it comes to have the Andromedans themselves being the ships. Now, that whole idea of the ship being a being is not actually that far-fetched. Because there's already at least one example. The Yolanda. Actually, the Yolanda actually itself, a living, breathing being. The ship, I don't think so. I think the brain, that control their kind of minions, which are basically pretty much dumb beings that are controlled by the Yolanda. Okay, so actually I was right. Okay, they're a wild Yolanda like cows. The ones that are grown are basically brainless. Okay. So I was going to talk about what is it? Branthians? Basically the ones that are basically they captured a dragon, a space dragon. And that's their ships, which is interesting. To actually be able to capture a space dragon and then controlling it and having it so that you actually add cybernetics to it, and that becomes your ship. Which, basically that then becomes a symbiotic relationship between the people that are basically riding on top of or beside the space dragon and the space dragon itself. Always interesting. But anyway, moving back to the Andromedans. So that was a thought I had. Now, when it comes to the history of the Andromedans, we know that they came from Andromeda. Now, as I'm sure if I had Gary on here, he'd be happy to be discussing this, which is that with the Andromedans, they came from Andromeda. It took a long time, and and they build this bridge to the LMC, and the bridge is broken, but the question is always will they come back? Because that's one thing I've always thought when it comes to, okay, you got the Andromedans, they come into the galaxy, they never actually improve the ships themselves. They never do. They have a certain technology, never improve the technology itself, which means to me that they're like almost prefab ships. They were created, or the plans were created long before they attacked. Now, I'm sorry, I have a hard time believing that they're going to stay in stasis. That they're not going to improve the weapons, improve the ships, improve the capabilities to continue to conquer the galaxy. I really have a really hard time believing that they wouldn't do that. Now, of course, the big issue is time frame. My guess is that the Andromedans, they built up this, they were really advanced at the time when they sent the ships. And they kept on sending the ships. Now, the problem is, I think the big issue is the transit time required for that. And of course, here's another question. Okay. They discovered that at one of the desecrator bases, they were actually building this huge battleship, the Devastator. And they never finished it, which tells me they're able to build ships themselves that aren't just being sent; they're also being built. At least in the LMC, at the desecrator bases. There. So that means that, in my mind, there's a communication is slow, which makes sense between the Andromedan Galaxy and the LMC. And that's why they never were able to prove it. There weren't battle plans brought forward, which tells me here comes also the big question. If that is the case, that to me that almost seems to indicate that the Andromedans themselves might not ever even be in the ships. The ships might be just programmed, and same for the robots. The Andromedans themselves are still back in their galaxy. So it's almost like what's the Omega? It becomes a D. Darn it. But basically, they're brainless. They can build things. They have really developed tactical abilities, but they have no intelligence. Drex, thank you, Matt. They have no intelligence, meaning no intelligence to actually improve the technology that has been created, which tells me there's no intelligence, or at least limited intelligence, on those ships, or even at the desecrator base. Because I have a hard time believing that the Andromedans would see that they're having difficulties and they wouldn't adjust and go, this is not working. So how can we improve the technology that we have? Because it kind of reminds me of the Tholians in that regard. The original Tholians that entered the galaxy fleeing from their home galaxy, they really didn't have the know-how about the technology that they had with them. Right. Matt was just saying, while conquering their own galaxy, they have programmed the robots to adapt. Yes, agreed. Where was I? Yeah, I have a hard time believing that they wouldn't have adjusted, at least some, if there was an ability to improve the tech compared to the Tholians. The Tholians, they didn't know how to improve the tech, but they did know they had the facilities and the knowledge to actually create these police cruisers. And then they did some really neat stuff, just creating police cruisers, and then they would connect them together and they create a destroyer, or actually not a destroyer, like a heavy cruiser. You connect two of them together. You connect like five of them together in a certain way, and you got a dreadnought, which is not quite a dreadnought compared to some other dreadnoughts, but it was considered a dreadnought for them. And at that point in time, when they came, they actually had very advanced systems. They had phaser ones before anyone else had phaser ones, and I'm sure what their phaser ones were not really phaser ones, but just like same for the Andromeda. Andromedas, they quote unquote have phaser twos, which probably aren't really phaser twos. They weren't quite the same technology, but the amount of damage was the same. Phaser two is a way to describe the way it actually did damage. The damage table for it, same thing. And I'm sure the same thing was for the Tholians, where it's like this wasn't a phaser. They created something which is like a phaser one, but really probably wasn't a phaser. The same damage ratio. Because I have a hard time believing that, given two separate, isolated, galaxies, that they're going to create the same technology. It's going to be exactly the same. No, that's why I'm surprised. I'm really surprised. Well, actually, not too much. That is the whole idea of warp. That's one of those constants that occurs in the in Star Trek, versus something like Star Wars, where you fly through hyperspace. And I think the only one that actually, who was it? I think it was Einstein. He came up with the idea, basically that wormhole, which could break both time and space. It can actually, that's one of the things it could actually do. So, which is another form of traveling. Now, okay, I'm going to go down that just a little, down that rabbit, chase that rabbit just for a moment. And that is that the whole idea of building I was going to say a galactic empire, but a galactic civilization. Let's put it that way. The biggest issue, and I think I brought it before, many years ago, but I brought it up before, which is communication. How do you keep and control? Because I think the Romans, for the most part, had the idea right when it comes to control, which is that you take over a certain territory, but you don't try to take control. What you do is you have the government that's in place still do what it does, and you just pay tribute to Rome, and that's how Rome would build up. Is that the states would pay Rome, and of course, if you didn't pay Rome, Rome would then come down and beat your butt and go, okay, well, so you don't be part of the Roman Empire. Let's discuss this, shall we? I think that for galactic civilization, that's going to be the key. Is I've talked about this. There's multiple ways in science fiction that has been done. So I'll let that go at this point. But when it comes to Andromedans, okay, they're going to take over. Obviously, why? I don't think anyone really ever found out why the Andromedans were doing what they were doing. A lot of times you don't conquer someone just to conquer them. Usually you conquer them for there's two goals that you could actually be going towards. One, safety. You conquer your neighbor so that you don't have to worry about your neighbor. That your neighbor will not attack you, conquer you, and basically subjugate you. That's one. Two, it's economic. Now, obviously, conquering a neighbor to have an economic benefit, that's one way of doing it. Obviously, another way is trade. But, that's another possible reason for doing that. Short of the juggernauts, which are basically, my understanding for the juggernauts is that the juggernauts were created by an ancient civilization, and idea is that they would go and destroy their enemies. And of course the question is what happens. That's always one of those things that, okay, you have a war machine that's designed to kill your enemy. What happens when they kill the enemy and they still exist? And in this case, the juggernauts exist, and the two people that were fighting no longer exist. Makes an interesting problem. So, why did the Andromedans invade? Were they going to try to take control? And from what we understand, when it comes to the module C3A, actually they did take control. No one knew about the RTN. It wasn't until who was it that came back from the future? Which, again, that's one of the actually. Right. You can go back in time to a certain time, but the problem is you can't go forward in time if you come back in time. Because when you come back in time, you automatically create a time split. In which case, when you go forward, you actually don't go forward to the time that you knew. The time in the future has then been altered. Little or a lot. Depends. That's one thing with the continuum that I love to this day. I think they actually got time travel right. They're one of the few ones that I actually agree with time travel. Which is you have the society that lived outside of basically time. And their whole reason for existing was to try to keep the proper timeline going forward. you know, and there was they, if the timeline went too far off the original timeline that was created, then that would just start rippling through. And if you existed in those other timelines, you were in one of those alternate timelines, then you would then fail. You could basically die. So that's one of those things that time travel. That's why I never liked time travel. But they come back and they see the Andromeds have taken over, and it's like, oh, how did they? They did it through the RTN. What's the RTN? This is rapid translation network that connects all of the bases that the Andromeds include, and this is how you can find them. If they never had that, they would never ever, the Andromeds would have conquered, and what happens then? I don't think that point, when they actually take over, has never been clear about what happened. Other than, of course, they took control. Did they then start building? Did they then try to build another desecrator basis in the actual Milky Way? Or actually, the case, if they took over the Alpha Octant, the question might be a question. Here's the one thing that I'm wondering if AB will ever settle. One, did the Andromeds ever invade the Octant where those Arcalians are? Because we all know that the Zorcalians are very paranoid. They do not like outside empires. They're very xenophobic, to say the very least. So the question is, did they ever actually run into them? Because the way I feel like is that even if they took over the Alpha Octant, my guess is that they would have left the Zorcalians alone. I would hope they would have left them alone, because that would have been the smart thing to do. Because we know that they entered the Omega Octant. We know they did that, but we don't know about the Zorcalians. My guess is they had. Now the question: what information did they find back? And maybe they found out they just got their butt kicked. It's like, okay, let's avoid that. Let's avoid that part of the galaxy, and hope they never come for us. Or at that point, then you send back a message say, "Hey, we need some help." Or possibly when they first met the Zorcalians and they got their butt kicked, that's when they went, we need more help. We need some advanced technology, and hopefully that would have been sent on the way way before any distress call. If they would have been there for like 100 years, they would have updated their tech at that point. Well, I think we will end it there. I know there's much more we could go in when it comes to the Andromedans, both as an empire and as the technology, because there's so much that actually we could discuss about them and about not just how their technology worked, but more to the point of why would you create those systems? Because you can understand with the Rin, where they, if I recall correctly, the Rin created a way of transporting ships within the nebula. You go pop, 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 pop. That makes a lot of sense. But a displacement device, okay, yeah, you can have so you move, and tactically it makes a lot of sense. And so PA panels, they make a lot of sense. But then you start thinking about some other things and how the whole thing worked, and why they didn't create other things when it comes to, like, okay, no seeking weapons. Why? Is it that they decided that seeking weapons were a total waste of resources? Is that why? And they figured direct fire weapons and ships are the way to go, and that was their philosophy, or what? So I think we'll wrap up that. Had a nice discussion about the Andromedans and a quick update on the ongoing move when it comes to Starfleet Universe on call and whether we're going to stay with TalkShoe. Most probably we'll be moving. The question is where and how will that whole thing work? And I'm still looking at it. It's something active. Hopefully by the end of next month, we will make a decision, or at least I will make a decision because it is mine. So, and with that, I bid you a good night. Yeah, agreed. Agreed. I know that was Matt. That was the big question. Was what's the goal of the Andromedans? You know. Okay. Well, let me stop the recording. Oh no, it's already stopped. Okay. I'm assuming you can still hear me, probably from the YouTube channel. Down to one viewer. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I just noticed that. But okay, well, I gotta put this thing together. Stop the recording on YouTube, which would be. I'm not sure if I'm gonna leave the recording up there or not. I'll probably leave it there at the moment, just to see how. Just have to wait and see. See if maybe some people actually watch it afterwards. It'd be kind of crazy, but hey, why not? Okay, well, guys, have a good night.